Thanks, Giles. Just reminded me that if I'm going to start talking, I may as well also start the broadcast. Hi, welcome to your Tuesday Fix with Dux Soup, everybody. Today's session, now it's actually being recorded, is all about how to simplify your workflows even more by integrating Dux Soup with your CRM. I'm Jo Henderson, I work in the marketing team, and today I'm joined by Giles Garnett, our Head of Professional Services, and Scott Wright, our Head of Sales. If you're an existing user, don't forget to leave us a GT review for the opportunity to win one of our limited edition caps. Simply add today's date to your comments and we will get in touch with you. I'm just about to grab, here are the caps, here they are, blue, raspberry, yellow. So it's well worth putting your thoughts down. And if you're new to Dux Soup, then please take advantage of our 2-week free trial. You get access to all the features that we'll be covering today, and we don't even ask for credit card details. So it's a win-win on all accounts. I'll pop the link in the chat as we get going, and you can use it. For those of you who don't know how this works, you're all on mute, but we love to answer your questions. So if you add them into the question box on the GoToWebinar dashboard, then we'll go through those at the end. I'll try and answer as many as I can while the gents are talking, but I will put the remaining ones to Giles and Scott at the end. Any links that we discuss in the session, I'll also add into the chat box, so keep a lookout for that one, and that's where I'll be putting the free trial link in a moment as well. We always get asked about the recording. Yes, you will receive the recording and it will be sent out to you in a few hours' time. So anything you want to recap on, then you can do. You don't even need to take notes. And I think that's probably it for my introduction. Giles, you ready?
I am, as ready as I'll ever be anyway. So, well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, or indeed good evening to you wherever you may be in the world. And thank you once again for joining us in the latest of our series of Dux Soup webinars. My name is Giles, as Jo has just pointed out. I'm Head of Professional Services here at Dux Soup. And in today's webinar, we're going to cover the topic of CRM integrations. You might want to get all of your LinkedIn data into your platform of your choice. And if so, we're going to talk about how you can achieve that. We'll touch on all sorts of different possibilities as we go through this webinar today. If you've got questions, get them in the question box. Jo will answer those ones that she can. And today's going to be a real mix of sort of some slides, a little bit of demo here and there, and hopefully lots of time for questions at the end, because everyone's got their own platform that they want to run from. So we'll make sure we've got time for questions at the end, and I'm sure Scott will have some input as well during the course of the webinar. So what we're going to talk about very quickly, as always, for anybody who's new to these webinars, we'll just touch on what Dux Soup is and from a very high level what it can do for you. I'm going to talk about our native integrations that we've already prepared and built for you. So we've got HubSpot, Pipedrive, and SharpSpring. And then I'm going to take a bit of time and talk through Zapier and Make. I'm not going to do a deep dive into all the technical ins and outs, because I think we'd be here till probably Christmas if we did that. But we're going to go from a reasonably high level and keep it fairly theoretical. We can dive into some specifics during the questions if needs be. But yeah, hopefully this will give you a flavour of what's possible, what you can achieve. You know, the idea of these platforms, Zapier and Make, is they're no code. You don't need any code programming experience in order to make the use of these sort of platforms. And because we've built the integration with Dux Soup there, hopefully there's something there for you as well. So what is Dux Soup? It's a Chrome extension, which allows you to mimic human behavior on the LinkedIn platform, and you basically define your list of targets, and then you get Dux Soup to carry out your actions on that list. Now, there are 3 paid versions of Dux Soup now, and as you can see here, we have a Pro version, a Turbo, and a Cloud version. For today's webinar, we're talking about everything related to the API. So we're only talking about functionality that's available in Turbo and Cloud. So just be aware of that. Now, if you're a pro user, or indeed you're a brand new user to Dux Soup and you have not used it before, you will automatically, when you first install it, get a 2-week free trial of Dux Soup Turbo. So you can make use of that to fully explore all of the functionality that's available. The Turbo and the Cloud versions give you the possibility to build campaigns, enroll prospects into those campaigns, and then, as I'm going to demonstrate today, integrate with whatever platform you want, ideally. So there's going to be lots and lots of bits and pieces as we go through this, talking about all sorts of possibilities. So hold on to your hats, people. There's quite a lot to cover. So the API, what is the API? It gives us the possibility to get platforms exchanging data, basically. It's available with both the Turbo and the Cloud editions. We've got some integrations already for you, and there are literally endless possibilities when it comes to these integrations. There's a link there at the bottom of the page there that goes through all of the integrations that we've got. Now, a lot of them we've developed, so the HubSpot, the Pipedrive, etc., and Zapier and Make we've developed. We've got some platforms that have integrated with us. An example of that would be the Woodpecker integration that has the email outreach possibilities, and we've done some webinars on that before. Today, we're focusing primarily on CRM type integrations where you're looking to handle your customer data rather than other types of integrations, but just be aware those possibilities are also there. So our integrations would get Pipedrive, HubSpot and SharpSpring. I believe the Pipedrive integration has been around for over 3 years now. The most recent one is SharpSpring, and I have it on good authority that we're looking at developing some more during the course of this year. I can't reveal which CRMs they are yet, but they are coming during the course of this year. So do watch this space, and there'll be direct integrations, basically mimicking the same solution that we've already defined there with Pipedrive, HubSpot, etc. So if you're not using one of those top 3, your other possibilities are to use Zapier or Make, and they are no-code platforms that allow those data exchanges to happen based upon different triggers and actions that happen on whichever platform you choose. So with HubSpot, Pipedrive and SharpSpring, we configure all of this through the Dux Dash. Now, hopefully most of you who are on this call are familiar what I'm referring to when I say the Dux Dash, and what I'll do is I will grab it for you in a second while I'm talking. Hopefully that will work. You decide which contacts make it into your CRM, and then you have your LinkedIn messages come into CRM as well. And as well as that, you can trigger actions from within your CRM. So this is, for example, how your Pipedrive options look within the Dux Dash. You can, as I've got mine set up here, to create and update people from connected profiles. This means I'm only going to have first degree prospects arriving in my CRM. So that's how I've got mine set up. Let's do that second. Right, so let's grab the Dux Dash second. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. There we go. So here in the Dux Dash, if I go down on the left-hand side and I go to my CRM connections, this is where I can go and configure everything. So here we can see, for Pipedrive, for example, I've got mine set up to update and create people from connected profiles. I have other options available here, but in my case, I'm only interested in first degree prospects arriving in my CRM. And then once they've arrived, I'm also looking for my messages or any LinkedIn message exchanges to also appear in my CRM. We have exactly the same options available in HubSpot and SharpSpring. I don't have my SharpSpring account connected at the moment, but we can see here, HubSpot, it looks exactly the same. So all of these different options there are available. So let's open up my Pipedrive account, which has spuriously disappeared, of course. Let me see if I can find it a second. There we go. So let's go and find my Pipedrive account, and I'll bring that over here as well. The wonders of doing these things live. There we go. Let's grab that one and bring that in. There we go. So here within Pipedrive, this is my Dux Soup account here. If I go to, for example, my contacts, what we can see here then, these are all my latest new connections in LinkedIn. Now, what happens when we install the connector between Dux Soup and any of those 3 native integrations that we have? Dux Soup creates some new fields, and the great thing about having those new fields in the CRM means that we can then map those messages in there, and we can also trigger actions from within the CRM itself. So here in Pipedrive, we can see here examples of all of the different data that we get across. You'll also see here, I've got the LinkedIn ID. This LinkedIn ID is essential for us to be able to see those messages and make those messages map across. So I can see, for example, all of these new contacts here. If I have any message exchanges with people in LinkedIn now, those will appear as activities here within my activity list. So they'll come in here. There's the various message exchanges there, but I'll also see them against my contacts. So if I go into my contacts a second and I look up perhaps one of my colleagues, let's see if we can have a look. There we go. If I look at Vlada, for example, our head of customer support, I can see here I've got various message exchanges here with my colleague there. So I have that great visibility of, first of all, I know that they're first degree contacts. Second of all, I know that I can see all of those messages in there. And third, I can now trigger actions from here in my CRM. So here within the with the options menu here at the top here, I can actually enroll people into a campaign or send them a message, or indeed, if I'm not connected to them, send them a connection request. And I can do that by perhaps selecting a number of people here. I could filter my list accordingly. And then we see here that then enables these menu options here. I could do it one at a time as I go to my CRM, as I go to my contacts in my CRM, and I could do that individually, a line at a time. But here in Pipedrive, I can also do it in a bulk format. And, you know, for example, if I wanted to enroll these people into one of my campaigns in Dux Soup, there you are. There's my list of campaigns here from Dux Soup. If I wanted to put them all into that campaign, for example, easy as that. I have just literally enrolled 4 people into that campaign, and those actions will now get executed by Dux Soup. So it's really, really easy to trigger those actions. We can, you know, as you're all hopefully Turbo or Cloud users, you're understanding what I mean by the campaigns. If not, we can come on that in the Q&A at the end. But this is basically how that works. If I just go to, while I'm talking, let's also open HubSpot so we can see how that looks. It's very, very similar. But let's do it for completeness so that everyone has the same visibility. If we go into HubSpot, we've got pretty much identical data. If I go to my CRM and I go to my contacts here within HubSpot, we will see basically the same information here with the various people that have come across. We can see here my new connections, and if we go over to the right hand side, we can then also see the LinkedIn ID. We can see the company that people work for. We can see the LinkedIn URL, and then if I go to one of these people, for example, if I just open a person here in HubSpot, on the right hand side towards the bottom, we then see here the possibilities for enrolling or sending a message or updating HubSpot, whatever it may be. Again, those same options that we have there within Pipedrive. So that's a whistle-stop tour of everything that you can do with Pipedrive, HubSpot, and SharpSpring. I've not talked about SharpSpring specifically here because I don't have an account that I'm logged onto at the moment. But there you get those flavors, and you configure all of that, as I say, here under the CRM connections within the Dux Dash. Let's get rid of that one. Let's move on to the next section. There we go. So Zapier and or Make. This is sort of where we're going to get a little bit more technical, a little bit more into the details. So, and we also need to think about this from a theoretical point of view and understand the data flows. So solutions such as Zapier and Make can help you define and build your own integrations. Understanding that workflow and what data you want where is really important. And ensuring that you have some key data in your solution opens up more possibilities. So whatever CRM you're using, whether it's Salesforce or Zoho or another CRM, or maybe it's a different platform, maybe it's an ATS, something like that. One thing I would recommend to make your life so much easier in the long run, if you can, within the subscription that you have of your CRM, I would recommend creating 2 new custom fields in your chosen platform to help you. And those two, and this is the bare minimum. You could also create more, of course. LinkedIn ID and the LinkedIn URL. If you capture those 2 fields of data, then you will have many more possibilities opened up to you with whatever you choose to integrate with. So have a look at each platform, and I'm not going to go through step by step how to do that on every platform right now because there are so many, but there's a really, really good guide amongst our blog posts, and hopefully Joe's able to share the link in the chat. There's a really good one relating to getting your LinkedIn messages into your CRM, and it covers how to do that exactly step by step in Salesforce. In a minute, I'll show you how we can do it in 1 or 2 other systems, but we'll touch on that in a second. But those two fields are absolutely key, I believe, to making this work as efficiently as possible. If we step back a bit and we think about a simple lead generation workflow, think about it, we're going to send a connection request, and then we're going to sit there twiddling our thumbs, waiting for somebody to accept. Hopefully, fingers crossed, all being well, somebody's going to accept our connection request. So at that stage, that individual becomes interesting because they're now a first degree connection. We can see more contact information about those people at that stage. So we've got that, excellent. And then if we're running a campaign or whatever, or maybe we're having a conversation with them, we then want to capture any follow-up activities in our CRM. So if we think about that from a high level, we need to think about all of those different steps along the way. Right. So if we're now thinking about that first workflow, we need to recognize our new connections. Well, Dux Soup can do that for us. We have that built into the functionality within the API. It will recognize any first new connections that come in. When that new connection comes in order to get the data, we then need to trigger what we call an auto visit. Dux Soup to open that profile. We need to monitor for those auto visits and then add that data to our CRM. So that's the first sort of puzzle that we need to solve here. So how does that look in reality? Oh, so no, we've got the second workflow as well. Then what we want to do is once we've got all our people in the CRM, we then want to monitor for LinkedIn and Sales Navigator messages. We want to pick those up by Dux Soup. We want to look in the CRM. Does that person exist in our CRM? If they do, great. We want that message to go in as a note or an activity or a task. There's all sorts of different expressions that you'll see being used across different CRMs, but there's usually a way of adding a note or an activity or maybe a task to a contact within your chosen platform. So how does that look like in reality? So here in Zapier, for example, and I'll pull it up in a second on the other screen, monitoring for new connections to trigger an auto visit to that new first degree connection. So let me just find, great. I now need to reload the page, bear with me 1 second. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just, bear with me 1 second. Then you love it when these things happen seamlessly and well prepared. I seem to have lost a bunch of links. Bear with me 1 second. Let's create a new Zap. So there we go. Let me grab that one down a second. So here we go. How do we do that in Zapier? It's very, very straightforward. So here we are. We're in Zapier now. And what we're going to do, we're going to select our trigger. So our trigger here will be Dux Soup picking up a new connection. So let's go Dux. Go to Dux Soup. Excellent. Select the event. So here we can choose what we want Dux to look out for. So we want to look out for here a new connection event, somebody becoming a first degree connection. Excellent. Then we press continue. Now we need to link our Dux Soup account, and this is where you need to find your API details and that sort of stuff. Now that's very straightforward. You can find all of that. First of all, you can look up on our support pages where to find it, or you just go to your Dux Soup options, and you'll find here under the Connect tab down the bottom here, your API authentication keys down the bottom here. So that's where you can go to find that information to make sure you've linked your account correctly and it is doing everything correctly. There we go. So we're going to choose my account, wherever it is, that one there. There we go. Press continue. And now it'll automatically do a test. So it'll pick up any data that's already sitting around that I can hopefully pull on to be able to set up this. So there we go. I've got here a couple of new connections that have connected with me recently. So Dux Soup is automatically able to find those for me. We'll continue, and then we want to trigger that auto visit. So we go Dux again. We're going to trigger the action. So here we can choose the event that we want to happen. So down the bottom here, we want to visit the profile. Okay, so where do we need to find the information about the profile we want to visit? We go, we want to visit profile. There we go. Continue. And then we need to let it know where that URL is to go to. So again, we click here, we go back to the data that was gathered. There we are, the LinkedIn profile of the new connection. We press that one there. Excellent. Continue. And we could now test that step, and that would actually trigger an auto visit to that particular profile. As simple as that. We've now set up step one in Zapier. Now in Make, it's a little bit different. And if I just grab my Make page here a second, let's go down here. There we go. There's my Make scenarios. So here, for example, in Make, it looks a little bit different. it's essentially the same activity. It just takes a little bit longer to work out. You see here we have what we call a watch item. We have to take this URL here. This is a webhook URL, and we have to put that into our Dux Soup options. Now, there's a brilliant guide to all of this on our support pages. So again, hopefully Joe can share that information with you. But this URL here, we effectively need to copy into our webhook functionality here. So there you are. There's that URL there that I've got there. That's grabbing, actually in this case, messages, because I'm listening out for people who are becoming first degree connections. And then here I'm literally just triggering again that visit to that LinkedIn URL there. So that's basically end to end. That's that first step in both Zapier and in Make. So we can set that up pretty straight. It's pretty straightforward to do that. And then that's how it should look here in Zapier, and then here in Make. So that's the first step. We've triggered that first step to pick up that new connection, trigger the visit. Now when the visits are happening, we need to make sure there's another Zap, or in Make it's called a scenario, to listen out for those visits to the profiles, and then add a filter to only process those that are for first degree connections. And say I personally only am interested in first degree connections, making it to my CRM. You may not want that. You may want to have every profile you ever visit end up in your database. And then you basically, all you then need to do is map the appropriate data that Dux Soup gathers, all of those different fields, and you just map them across, matching up the fields accordingly. So how that looks in reality, let's have a look. Do I have? Yeah, I've got one here, I think. Let's have a look and see if I can find it. I'll tell you what, I've got one here. So actually, yeah, this is how it would look in reality there. So in Zapier on the left here, a new profile visit event. And then in this case, I did it in Begin by Zoho. So that's creator update to contact. Similarly, on the right-hand side here, I've built a very similar thing in Make, where Dux Soup is watching out for visits. I've then got a filter to pick out only first degree actions, and then I'm creating or updating a HubSpot contact in this case. So that way you can then add information accordingly. Let me see if I can find one that I've got here. Let's grab this one a second. So this is one that we've been using in the past for various scenarios. This one here. This was creating a lead in, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, Odoo CRM, not quite sure, Odoo. But yeah, this one here, we're creating a lead. Again, we link our account, we choose the actions, so we map the data that's coming through, so we can put the first name, the last name, we can put in various different bits of data. Different CRMs have different fields, and that's one of the challenges you'll face. So you can sometimes include the URL, sometimes you can't, sometimes you have to create those fields for the LinkedIn IDs. In this case, I think with this one here, I was adding a profile ID as the reveal ID, but again, the theory is the same. And the great thing as well with the Dux Soup side of things, with the Dux Soup integration here, we actually have the possibility to filter those actions accordingly here in Zapier. So here, when a new profile visit happens, again, we select our account, we then look at the trigger. So what's the filter here? And then we have these options available here. So we could choose to include all events, first degrees, those with email addresses, or first and with an email address. So those filters are already built in there already for you. So that's a very straightforward solution there. Without going into too much detail on the other one, let's see if I can find, where's my Make page gone? It's disappeared. Bear with me 1 second. I have too many tabs and too many windows open. Or maybe I just need to. Bear with me 1 second. And of course, it's logged me out. That's interesting. Oh, seamless, isn't it? Always seamless.
This proves that we're live, Giles, doesn't it?
Oh, there we go. Right now, there we go. So, right. So let's pull this one down. Yeah. So here, for example, my integration with HubSpot here. This one here in particular, there we go. If I edit this one so I can show you how this looks. So again here, I've got watch events. This time I'm listening out for first degree, sorry, I'm listening out for visits. Then I've got my filter, my first degree only here. So then I'm saying, right, I only want only data coming from first degree contacts is making it into my CRM. Now what you'll see here, this is all of the data that's coming out of Dux Soup. So all of this information in here is Dux Soup is gathering for us during those auto visits. And then once we've got that filter in place, we then map those data fields into your CRM data fields there. So that's how we can do that as well. Okay, and then the third, and this could be the last one, but you could also go beyond this as well if you wanted to. This is where you want to monitor for incoming LinkedIn messages, do a search within your CRM to see if that contact exists. And this is where we go back to the LinkedIn ID, which we mentioned earlier. And then when that message comes in, we then want to add a note or an activity or a task and have it mapped against the individual. So this is how this could look in reality. So on the left-hand side, again, the Zapier example, we've got a new LinkedIn message event, so an incoming message. We're going to do a search for that contact. Does that person exist? Great, we'll create a task against that particular contact. And then similarly here on the right-hand side, we're doing the same thing with Zapier. We're doing a watch for new messages. We have to use that, remember, we have to use that webhook URL there as well. Then we're searching items, in this case within monday.com, and then we're creating an update and adding a note to that particular scenario. Now, all of these things that I've been talking about here, let's see if I can find a couple of things, how they look like in reality. Where's monday.com gone? So here, this is monday.com. What we have here is we can see, if I was running auto visits, I would have this populating new connections all the time. And what we can see here very easily, I've been able to add a couple of new fields in here. So the LinkedIn URL, the LinkedIn ID, they will automatically get populated whenever I visit a first degree connection now, and those contact details will get updated here in monday.com. The other one I was going to try and find was begin. Where's it gone? There we go. I think this is the one where I've got a few more contacts available. There we go. So again, here within Begin, it's very, very simple to use. And again, here we can see here, for example, I can automatically bring my first degree contacts across here. So there's one of my colleagues from Dux Soup. There we are. There's the LinkedIn ID being brought across and the LinkedIn URL dynamically captured as well. So all of this is just happening dynamically for me now. As my campaigns run, as my zaps run or my scenarios. Whenever I speak to people, one of the biggest questions people have is, was it Zapier or Zapier? I was talking to Joe earlier about this one, and I was on a webinar, it must have been about 4 or 5 years ago now, and I was told on good authority that it's Zapier because it makes you happier. I don't know whether it's true or not.
That's very funny.
And also they're not Zapes, they're Zaps. So there we go. So that's kind of the 3 scenarios. Now there are other scenarios. You could take this further. You could trigger the other way from within your CRM. So for example, if you've got a certain status of a contact or a lead within your CRM, you could create a trigger whereby a change of status in your CRM triggers maybe an enrollment into a campaign via Zapier or via a scenario in Make as well. So there are literally endless possibilities. Now, integration examples, and kudos to anybody here who spots the spelling mistake really quickly, which I noticed partway through while I was presenting. These are some examples of integrations that I know people are using at the moment, using either Zapier or Make. So this here is by no means an exhaustive list of what people are using. And I know there are many, many other examples out there as well, and to different levels of complexity as well. So that's, just a sample there. Scott, are you aware of any others as well?
Oh my goodness, yeah, tons. I mean, Airtable, even Google Sheets,
Airtable, yeah.
Airtable, Google Sheets, it goes on and on and on, and there's so many more. And while, yeah, you know, Zapier and Make.com are this is a fantastic. I love those tools so much because it just helps create these integrations so easily and simply. That said, though, if you are ever interacting with a more, you know, technical developer, we also do have access to the API where you can create the API test tool. I don't know if you want to show that. And you can generate curl commands, which is what is needed for you to create different actions, and you wouldn't need to use a Make or a Zapier to save costs there. However, you're going to need to invest a little bit more time by creating that the technicalities or the integration yourself on that case. But yeah, something to think about.
Just sort of without disappearing down a rabbit hole too far.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There's the API test call, so you can actually run your whatever it may be. You want to enroll a profile. You can generate the command, fill in the appropriate data, and then, as Scott says there, you can take this further and really, you know, open up the possibilities even more so. I think the great thing about Zapier and Make is that it's so accessible. There's a cost involved depending on the complexity and also depending on the number of actions that you're performing, but it's so accessible for those people who aren't confident in coding or don't have access to those resources. Perhaps, you know, if you can fill in a spreadsheet, you can use Zapier, to be honest.
Yeah, actually, it's a really good point what you just said. If you could fill in a spreadsheet, Giles, and what I've actually helped a couple of clients with to help reduce on their Zapier tasks in certain cases, or at least on the cost, is by creating you know, a free Google Sheets sort of dashboard, which we have a documentation on our website on how to create that. It's very, very easy. It's just like copying and pasting some code, and then you get a webhook that you put into your Dux Soup. But what's great about that is that will act as sort of your data lake, I suppose, if you want to call it that. And then you can build an integration that connects to that Google Sheets and have, you know, filters come from that type of thing. Because I know HubSpot can connect to Google Sheets, right? And some of these other tools can connect to Google Sheets, right? So, and then also Zapier, you can use that as sort of the middle ground and tell Zapier to only trigger when this happens inside of the Google Sheet or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right there, because you can very, very quickly, you know, tasks and actions or whatever it may be, however they're expressed within Zapier and Make, very, very quickly you can mount up and use up all of your monthly tasks. So most of their subscriptions have a number of tasks that you can have carried out per month and without having to pay extra. What you'll notice here that this dashboard, which we first covered back in 2020, I did a webinar on it back then. This has been updated with the help of Scott in the last couple of months. So this is fully updated, and it's all step-by-step instruction here. And it just shows you what can be achieved relatively simply. All of the text and everything required for the script, etc., is all here. It's a step-by-step guide. It works seamlessly. And I know several users who are using this right now in anger, shall we say, for want of a better expression. So yeah, there are those possibilities as well. So don't shy away. Don't be overawed by all of these different options. If you want to keep it simple, yeah, you've got, you know, the existing ones that we've created. Then there's Zapier and there's Make, but then there's other possibilities as well, depending on how confident you are. Just wanted to go through a quick checklist. So, you know, we've got HubSpot, Pipedrive, and SharpSpring. We've got the native two-way integration whereby you can have your data coming into those platforms and also triggering actions from those platforms. You have control. Okay, it's our solution that's been built, but you have control of what gets in there. If you're using another CRM or platform, if it integrates with Zapier or Make, great, follow our guides. We've got support pages, we've got blog posts, and the possibilities are literally almost endless. And then, as Scott has mentioned there as well, you can go further down the line with the open API that we've got. Familiarize yourself with the terminology. Don't be scared of this. You know, understand what I mean when I say about what we mean when we say about an API key. It's an authentication key. Understand what a zap is, what a scenario is, what a trigger event is, and those sorts of things. Because once you understand those process flows, you can then start to peel back the layers and get more and more out of this. And then one of the other tips I give is just, you know, test and test and test again. You know, try different platforms, see what works for you. Some people, when I speak to them, say, oh yeah, I haven't decided on a CRM yet. You know, these are people who've maybe had a business for, you know, maybe it's a startup, maybe they've been running for a while. there are so many platforms out there. I wouldn't want to make a recommendation because there's no one size fits all for anybody. Try different platforms. Most platforms will give you a free trial for a week or two or maybe a month. So test it. You get a free trial of Dux Soup Turbo as well, so you have access to that API during the trial period. So there are lots of opportunities there to really sort of think, okay, what data do I want it, and what data do I need to be where it needs to be, and when. Think about that as well. Yeah.
Oh, real quick, sorry to interject, but as you were talking about the different platforms, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and I was very surprised that Zapier, maybe they're just good at their SEO, but they were using Bullhorn, which is an ATS client tracking tool,
yeah.
And for recruiting. And what we did is really quickly, I just did a Google search, and I even just did it right now, and I just typed in Dux Soup and Bullhorn. And the first result that comes up on Google is, sure enough, connect your Bullhorn CRM to Dux Soup. So a lot of times if you're not sure, like, oh, will this hook up to my custom, CRM or whatever, try just doing a Google search, say Dux Soup and whatever the tool or application is, and you'll see that Zapier may already have that available to you for you to go ahead and get started with too.
Yep, great tip. Just have a look. The chances are, if you're looking to do something, it may have been done by somebody already. They may have captured it. They may have documented it. They may have shared information around it. So don't be afraid to ask. We've also got, of course, our Facebook group. Ask on there. There are many people who are out there who have got experience in handling these sorts of things as well. So yeah, we've covered the HubSpot, Pipedrive, and SharpString integrations. We've talked about Zapier and Make, hopefully giving you a bit more familiarity of understanding where the data comes from, etc., what data is available, where it can go, and then how you can filter results so that you get what you want. Basically, I wanted to open your eyes to these possibilities and not provide an absolute, this is what you must do, but just say, okay, think about what's possible and what you need it to do for you. Ultimately, it's up to you what you do with the data, and yeah, we're hopefully providing you with the facilities to help enable that. Joe, have we got any questions?
Yeah, we do. I'm going to start with a question from Steve, which is about a CRM that you didn't mention. Now, this is a bit of a use case that he's talked through. I imagine you might be looking at it on the chat now. So he has said the automation.
I'm trying to find the chat at the moment.
He said the automations in Make that we're considering are between Close CRM and Dux Soup, and they are the following. 1, when a new lead is added to Close, an invite is sent to Dux Soup. 2, as part of a workflow on Close CRM, after emails aren't responded to, we want Dux Soup to check if the first connection, and then so on, if they're a first degree connection, and then send a template message from Close CRM. And then 3, keep an eye out for the response from LinkedIn on that message and report back to Close. Now, it's a bit convoluted. I don't know if you know much about Close CRM.
I've seen it in the past, and there's one overriding factor that needs to be addressed before we go any further on that one. That information that they have in the CRM, does it contain the LinkedIn URL? If you don't have the LinkedIn URL, there's nowhere to point Dux Soup to go and get that connection request or send that invite or check the status of it. So the one thing that they will need at the start of that whole process is the LinkedIn URL against that individual in the CRM. And that to me, that would unlock all of what he said there, as long as it matches up to an email address as well. I guess there's a dependency there. Have they responded to an email, and is there a LinkedIn URL associated with that individual?
Yeah, and that's exactly correct. Just to add to that, the first part of that, if I heard it correctly, it's like every time a prospect or a person is added to the CRM, to go ahead and have Dux Soup send out a connection request, you may want to try and think through every possible scenario of how you're utilizing that CRM and ensure that that's going to fit all of your use cases. Because what could be sort of biting you in the butt in the future is if you kind of don't think about that and you upload a list of people from something else that you don't intend to have those happen. Maybe it's customers or this or that for whatever reason. It's just good to sort of, just a saying, measure twice, cut once. But I think in this space, you can measure 5 times, cut once. So thinking through on all of your scenarios there to make sure that that's what you want to happen.
Good advice all around, gents, I think. Patrick has asked, is the transferring message to CRM function available in the API or only through Zapier?
So you can use it through the API. Yeah, effectively, the Dux Soup. Yeah, trying to think what the best way to explain this is. Maybe you'll explain it better than I can, Scott.
So yes, it can. However, the Dux Soup API that Giles was showcasing to you is for actions to be taken out, right? So any action you want to do, meaning send a message, visit a profile, trigger, grab the user settings, update the user settings, things like that, right? However, that is meant to show you that you can do things, taking outwards. What you're looking for, though, is effectively like a webhook, but basically what you do in Zapier with webhooks instead of like a Dux Soup point, you'd have like a webhook and you would put that webhook inside of Dux Soup, which would be able to be captured. So you'd be using custom webhooks in that case to be able to pick up those messages. However, one of the things that you could do is, going back to Zapier, instead of, or you could have like the Dux Soup step of it catching the messages, or maybe even sidestepping that and putting in for the first step to be a webhook in Zapier, and then have all of the sort of content, actions, and activity that Dux Soup captures be dumped into a Google Spreadsheets. And then from there, you can build custom API stuff on top of that, leveraging that type of a thing. But yeah, hopefully that gives a little bit of insight.
Yeah, I mean, the messages are polled periodically. So Dux Soup is checking for incoming messages, message exchanges, and that data can be made available to any webhook destination you so desire. So if you've got a platform that you want those to be polled to, absolutely, and then you can then handle that data accordingly, mapping it to wherever you want. But I mean, if you have a look at the API documentation, you can see the payload of data that's available according to the different actions there. So you can then decide what happens to that data from there.
Oh, and one more thing, because I got asked this question the other day, which was about the conversation. So Dux Soup will not retro any conversations that you had previously before the integration was connected and set up. So it'd be all for just net new stuff now moving forward, just FYI.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. I'm just reading through. Steve has sent a follow-up message. I think, Steve, you might be wise to book a session, maybe do a 15-minute call to discuss your particular case. I think that might make sense. So Giles, maybe you can have a quick look at Steve's query.
I'll do my best to read it while we're.
So the other question that we had then was from Matt, but that was also actually about APIs, which we've we've touched on already. So Matt, your question has just been answered previously too. One question that we did have earlier, which I think is relevant for everybody, if you have this integration and the content is coming back to you into your Dux Soup account or into your CRM, CRM, just to clarify, you can also see the responses in LinkedIn, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the Dux Soup is checking both your regular LinkedIn mailbox and your Sales Navigator mailbox. Remember that. It's something that many other platforms aren't able to do, is to check those Sales Navigator messages as well. Yeah, so it's just purely a reflection of the conversations that are existing there.
Yeah, and I was just going to add to that, Rick, reflection also just stating that it's sort of after the fact, right? So Dux Soup is going to capture it after it's already been sent or after it's been received in these cases, right? So it won't ever capture stuff beforehand, so it needs to be able to execute, and that will come in periodically through the message bridge.
Yeah, and sort of part of the in the engine room of Dux Soup, there's this periodical check for new connections, for incoming LinkedIn messages, incoming Sales Navigator messages. It runs in the background for you if you've got Turbo or Cloud, and yeah, it's polling that data and then pushing it to wherever you want it to go, essentially. Yeah.
And what about people who are perhaps they're using the CRM, they're using Dux Soup, and they're using LinkedIn? Is there any danger of any duplicate or crossover of messages or anything like that? What should people be aware of? Where should they be looking first?
I think you know a lot of what I think we're probably talking here primarily to some fairly advanced lead generation people who are using Turbo or Cloud, and they're looking to get more out of the data. So they understand that for example, they're running through campaigns, for example. With Dux Soup, you can't put somebody into the same campaign twice, so you're not going to duplicate effort there. And then, yeah, essentially the robot will take care of everything automatically. And as it polls the data, of course, you need to be careful if you're triggering messaging or triggering those sorts of things through the integration. So if for example, you're triggering a message to go based upon a status in a CRM, and that triggers a message to somebody, then you might want to put filters in there. Just be aware that there are lots of filtering options within both Zapier and Make, and that can help you make sure that you don't duplicate. Now, one of the functions that really can help with that is the tagging function, and then we really are disappearing down a rabbit hole. So you can, for example, you can message a profile and tag a profile, for example, with a label, a Dux Soup label, effectively there, which then says, yeah, I know that I've sent this message to this person, and then make sure that if that tag exists somewhere, then you're not going to duplicate your effort. So that would be a way of doing that. But yeah, that really is getting sort of quite deep into the detail.
Perfect, thank you. I'm just messaging Steve back actually. Steve, I'm just sending you an email address. I think if you basically cut and paste this message to Eve, and she'll make sure that it gets to the right person.
What I'm going to do for Steve is I'm going to stick the link in so he can book a call straight away. That's going to be the easiest thing.
Yeah. There you go. Cut straight to the chase.
There we go.
Yeah, while he's doing that, really quick, just adding is right, like this is everything that we're talking about is a series of rabbit holes that you could go down and spend many weeks on getting it to be exactly tweaked and perfect to your dream scenario, when in reality getting it to there might be a little bit more difficult than you realize, at least to be able to hit your level of expectations. So sometimes what I've seen work a little bit better is kind of be a little patient and get it in progress. Like first be able to set it up so you get data going into the CRM, right? And then be able to craft it so you have the right data going into the CRM. Then be like, what do you want to do with that data? And try to build manual processes around that, right? In terms of like if you do bulk uploads and take bulk actions or whatnot. But yeah, all things to sort of think about. Don't be discouraged though, because Zapier and Make.com are fantastic platforms to help you learn. So
they are, and they're incredibly intuitive. I remember, 5 years ago, when I first encountered, was playing around with it with Zapier. Yeah, very quick to be able to get up to a certain level of competence to be able to then sort of really get a huge amount of efficiency out of those platforms. So yeah, give it a go, play around with it, see what works, because as we've said a number of times on this call, the possibilities are literally endless.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Well, that concluded our questions for today. We ran through them fairly swiftly. Most of them were from Steve, in all fairness. So I've just shared actually the link to the next webinar, which is in 2 weeks' time on September 3rd, where we'll be looking at how to nurture your first degree connections so you can stay top of mind with your existing community. We'll be talking about how to personalize your messaging, how to add value with your content, how to proactively endorse and engage with your connections, and how to create the right campaign sequence for your first degree connections as well. So the link is in there. It's a very long-winded link, apologies, but it is nevertheless the link. So click on it now and you'll have your space reserved for next session. Resources, do you want to talk about the options, Giles? You've kind of touched on it anyway with your pinging your links up.
As if by magic. So yeah. If you're new to Dux Soup and you want to have a demo call, for example, you can also reach out to our info at dux-soup.com. So you had to think about the email address there, and you can book a demo call that way. If you've got problems, and Dux Soup related problems, I should say, if you've got Dux Soup issues, You can always reach out to our support team, and then yeah, if they can't solve your problem virtually, then they will set up a support call with probably with either myself or Scott. And then if you're looking to build a solution, perhaps, or you're looking for help in getting the most out of a solution and trying to build a process, we have both boosters and technical sessions available, which you can book through the website. And yeah, both myself and Scott host those, and we will do our absolute best to try and meet your requirements in those.
And I suppose with these paid booster calls, you can come to us and talk to us about your problems too. We just might not be the best helpful in some of these stuff, but feel free to. No, kidding.
Sounds like you're opening yourself up for a different type of therapy there, Scott.
We take your insurance. I'm just kidding.
So one last reminder from me, obviously, if you've enjoyed the session or if you are an existing user and you'd like to share your reviews on G2, then go ahead. If you put today's date in, then we'll be in touch and we'll send you one of our caps. Which just leaves me to say a big thank you to everybody for joining today. It was a nice session, a good content as well. So thanks, Giles and Scott. And we'll see everybody back here in 2 weeks' time.
Cool. Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.